Hey everyone, Tony D and little Joan. She's sitting in my robe here, all nice and snug. Today we're going to do a hot take on Mark Ruffalo's tweet because Mark Ruffalo apparently is very angry and against capitalism. I have nothing against Ruffalo personally or any celebrity that touts their politics. And Ruffalo really is, for the most part, consistent in his general leftism, I guess you'd call it. But when he goes on Twitter complaining that we shouldn't have a capitalist system or we should go to some more socialist system, you're really talking about a guy who's a millionaire complaining that people don't have money. And when you get right down to it, socialism and communism are both means to redistribute wealth. And Ruffalo, by his own sort of logic, has too much money and is perfectly capable of giving it away. I think someone online pointed out he's worth about $30 million. I mean, no one person needs $30 million, Mark. So I just want you to know that if you send me $1 million, I will pay off my debts. I will buy my family some very nice gifts, and I will make. I promise not to spend the money on any political causes whatsoever. I will just merely make my life and the lives of people around me better. So here is your offer to redistribute the wealth to me. I'm much poorer than that, and I will continue to write my books and sit at home with my little doggie. Oh, I will buy her so many great treats, and the super high quality ones, not the cheap ones. I just won't buy the good ones when they're on sale. I will buy her treats all the time. So I just wanted to let you know that if you want to start redistributing your wealth, I will take that burden from you. I'm willing to do that. You can make it a check, a money order, however you want to do it. I do like cash. It's a lot of cash to give me, but I'll deal with it. I'll put it in a trash bag, take it right to the bank, no messing around. And I will not invest it in any defense industry. I will not do that. That's part of I completely divested myself of defense industry stock a long time ago. I will not be buying any, and I probably wouldn't buy any stock, quite frankly. Maybe something like Apple if they get out of China, or some company like that makes electronics. Or I would invest in Disney simply because I don't like Disney. But that's just a personal thing for me. It has nothing to do with my politics. So I just wanted to let you know. But this all comes back to my video about celebrities and politics, and I did want to put an addendum on it. That, you have to be very careful when you see stuff about celebrities in the news. Because just like, there is a lot of fake news media out there about politics and government and people on both sides of the political fight, or the many sides of the political fight, I should say, there is an awful lot of bad faith news and just outright lies about celebrities. Now, I don't feel sorry for them. It's part of, being a celebrity. They gotta tolerate this. Even Ruffalo, I mean, I'm sure he's had things written about him that weren't true. This is a little different, of course. This is his tweet, and we assume, he's on Twitter running it. But recently I was thinking about doing a video about Pete Davidson, the comic from SNL. And, I was going through it in my head, and I was calling Davidson a douchebag. And I thought to myself, how do I really know this guy's a douchebag? I mean, I kind of don't like him. And there was that incident with the one-eyed congressman that was kind of made him look like a jerk. But then I thought, I don't really know the guy's a jerk. I just kind of don't like him. Maybe I'm a little jealous of him. He's got a good comedy career. He's a young guy. He's banging hot chicks. Oh, my God, the girls he's with. But and then it occurred to me, the media, you have to be very careful too when they talk about your celebrities, because you want to talk about clickbait. It's one thing to have all this clickbait about impeachment and Trump and, just to get ratings. They totally do that with celebrities all the time. And Davidson really is sort of the perfect storm of things for that element. He's young, he's in great shape. He's a stand-up comic. He's very visible. He's dating hot, famous women. He's been photographed on the beach and stuff. So he's kind of the perfect person for them to follow around and make stuff up about. Because when you really think about it, how much truth can you squeeze out of a story about Pete Davidson, right? I mean, when he first comes on the scene, you do a story about like where he's from and how he came up. Maybe you do a couple of stories about him being on Saturday Night Live and how he's adjusting to his new fame. Maybe you do a few stories about the girls he's dating. But after a while, you just kind of run out of gas, right? Like, how many more stories could you do on Pete Davidson? But the guy is famous, and doing an article about him gets you clicks. So you kind of got to keep coming up with new angles. And I think that's where the media goes off the reservation. They start just crafting things out of little tidbits of information, just to titillate people and get them going, whether it's, who he's dating or who he's not really dating, or, stuff he did, or, an implied event or thing he may have did simply by taking a picture and looking at it, or, hyping up a rumor that's maybe not true, or talking to people who claim to know him and they just make stuff up and being able to quote them and having plausible deniability because you're quoting someone who claims to know Davidson. A person claiming to be Davidson's friend said this. And they do that all the time. So then I thought, I shouldn't do a video just calling somebody a douchebag, because maybe he's a nice guy. Maybe if I knew him personally, we would get along famously and be buddies, and it would be cool. So I decided I wouldn't do that to Davidson, even though I kind of made fun of him in a couple of comedy articles. But that's different. He's famous. He's a target. I'm punching up by making fun of him. But, and even though I do think he's a little bit high and mighty regarding himself, but he's also done some cool things, like when he told that crowd of kids, to shut up and grow up when they were trying to record him. Although recently there was an article today, I don't know how true it is, that according to the article, he's asking people who see his comedy shows to sign an NDA that they'll pay $1 million if they end up taking his act and putting it on YouTube or Facebook or whatever, which I think is nuts. I mean, I would never sign an NDA to go see a comedy show. You just gotta have to trust me, buddy, or I don't know, put up a gadget to block all the cell phones, or just collect the phones or whatever. I mean, people do that now. They actually collect the cell phones of famous comics when they go in to keep it. And I can understand the impetus. He's going to make a comedy special at some point, and he don't want all his jokes on YouTube already, and he certainly doesn't want to be turned into a meme, and, he wants a positive review of his show, not like, oh, it's the same old material we've seen on YouTube kind of thing. So I kind of get it. So when it comes to celebrities, it's this weird mix of things about them that, like Pete Davidson, you don't necessarily want to know, or you don't necessarily believe, but maybe you want to believe it. And then you got a guy like Ruffalo, who's just kind of on Twitter barking about whatever, at least being consistent, but, throwing his weight around needlessly, I would say. I would say, if you're a celebrity and you're trying to use your fame to further your political agenda, I can understand that. But I think you need to do that in a very direct yet not high exposure way, because first off, you have money, and money in politics, that's big. So I think you need to do things locally. I think Ruffalo kind of going for the jugular here, like, hey, let's have the revolution. It's like too much. Even if I agreed with that, I'd be like, dude, you can't just like call for a revolution. You got to work at it. I think you need to do the legwork and start small. And with his money and influence, he could start small and have some really, really changing effects. So, for instance, Clint Eastwood was the mayor of a town. I'm sure Ruffalo could get elected in a local town somewhere. Whether or not he moved there or he already lives in a local town outside of Los Angeles. You could become the mayor and put your socialist programs out there and see if they work. And you can actually get, the experience of actually trying to do the math on socialist programs. I think what you're going to find, if I may address you directly, Mr. Ruffalo, is that socialism doesn't work and that you will probably blow a lot of your own money trying to make them work. And at the end of the day, you may help a handful of people, but really you're going to end up wasting a lot of money, and there's just going to be people lining up with their hands out. Much like I am still here. So again, if you really want to distribute some wealth, you're going to get people like me who are just going to go, I'll take some of that wealth, whether they need it or not. And, it's not a system that works. And if you need any further evidence other than, Venezuela or places like Cuba or places like the Soviet Union or any of the other places they truly had a socialist government, like places in Africa that there's been a bunch of African communist and socialist regimes, and in the end they all just fall apart. So at this point you should be up to speed that socialism doesn't work. What you really want is something else. You want poor people to have things and be protected. And that's a noble cause. I can get behind that, but not the way you're doing it. It's not about changing the government. Those guys, they don't know what they're doing. You start a private charity and help people. That's what I would do. And if you give me that $1 million, maybe I'll throw some of that into charity as well. No promises.